Good evening, everyone. This is a continuation of our series entitled Crushing the Myth John's Gospel Promotes That Faith Alone Saves. This will be episode 2b, How John's Gospel Reads If the NIV Theological Dictionaries definition is used. The NIV Theological Dictionary from 2000, as we'll see. So let's take a look. The question is, what is the impact if pisteuo in John was translated as obey when directed at a person? So that's what the NIV Theological Dictionary says. When pisteuo is directed towards a person, not at some facts, it means obey to that person. And before we get into the verses themselves, I'm going to do a quick review of the key giants of Greek lexicons by Christian scholars. Beginning in 1829, it goes back before that, but I thought this is good enough. This is over 200 years ago. If it isn't excessive by now, it wouldn't help if I added another 100 years to this, or 200 years actually. Anyway, we'll begin with Parkhurst. Parkhurst was a great and famous lexicographer, and he said in 1829 to pisteuo in John 3:16 that it simultaneously means, quote, a cordial reception and obedience. Parkhurst, 1829, 683 to 684. I pulled it up just now, and I screenshot the words, and I made it very big. Obedience, 1829. We are almost 200 years, less 6, to have not fixed this since Parkhurst made sure we knew about it. It was clear before, but 1829 is 200, almost 200 years, not enough time to fix this. In 1891, Liddell Sctt, which is considered by many one of the top lexicographers, they were long dead, by the way, so they're writing in 1891. So that's about 231 years, maybe 131 years ago. 131 years ago, I think. Yeah. So they wrote here. They said the word pisteuo means to believe, trust, comply, or obey. And they obviously knew what the NIV Theological Dictionary knows is you don't obey facts, so you would translate that believe in facts, but you obey a person, so you would translate that obey when it modifies or it's directed at a person. And now another man was Thayer. He was a very famous lexicographer as well, and he lived and died. He lived and then died in 1901, so he could not have written this dictionary after that point. So this goes back, so take 2022 and 2023 and subtract 1901. What do you get? I think you get 120 years ago. Well, this is what he wrote. And he was talking just about the noun pistis. He said the noun formed from pisteuo, quote, is used especially of the faith by which a man embraces Jesus, i.e. a conviction full of joyful trust conjoined with obedience to Christ. So he didn't see you could separate those things out. And I think that's actually more true than you believe, because the word pistis, we'll get into in another episode where that comes from. I'll just say this. There was a famous, I would almost call it a entertainment figure in that era who was called Pistis. That was her name. Put a capital P on that. And she was just known for being very obedient, very compliant, do anything her master tells her to do. And that's who she was. So that's where Pistis got into the minds of the Greeks as a person who was obedient. And that's where it really comes from. The word believe was something secondary, and that came later. So the primary meaning was always obedient, because they would always think of the Pistis lady. All right. Next is in 1984. Let me make sure something. Yeah, 1984, another prominent Protestant scholar, Greek, W.E. Vine. I think he actually lived earlier than this, so this could be another one of these dated lexicons that actually existed much earlier. In his expository dictionary of New Testament words, dated 1984, Thomas Nelson explains when pisteuo means trust, then pisteuo means not mere credence, that is, not mere faith alone, but instead reliance upon, and he means a reliance like you would rely upon your doctor's orders, you would follow or obey your doctor's guidance. And footnote 10 describes that in the book. And then came the book that I'm focusing on here to raise the question, which is the NIV Theological Dictionary of New Testament Words, Zondervan 2000, page 1027. We have a link at our chapter 26 online. You can just click that link and you can take a look at the scan page that I host so you can pull it up and see it with your own eyes. It says this: similarly, pisteuo means to trust something or someone. It can refer to and confirm legendary tales and mythical ideas. With reference to people, pisteuo means to obey, meaning with reference to your pisteuing towards a person, you would then translate it as obey. And they added actually, was it at this time? Yeah, they put in a citation to Sophocles' play Oedipus Tyrannus at 625. Then this book, incidentally, has been reissued for several years since then with a different title, New International Dictionary of New Testament Theology and Exegesis, 2014. So I think they wanted to put a little bit more emphasis on this is a lexicon. So it wasn't as clear before. And it says identical. It's identical words. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to take, Mr. Mounsey has a concordance where he shows you where the word pisteusõsin, or whatever form it is, it has verb declensions that you'll not have to know about, but you'll always see the root word pisteuo. And I highlighted or did an arrow towards every time pisteuo appears. And this is just in the first 3 chapters, and it just goes on and on and on. It's all over the book of John. Okay, so this is just 3 chapters. So you'll see it's a lot. So it's going to take us a lot to go through this, but I think we want to see, don't we want to see what changes when we read it correctly? And we're going to just make the change to the word obey. Now, we should not forget that when we did episode 2A, that we had recruited one more person to this position, and that was Vincent in a book of 1905 when he was commenting on the verse in one of the 2 verses in episode 2A, that he said clearly, pisteuo plus eis is more than acceptance of a statement. This is a direct quote of the cropped page over here to the left. It's more than mere acceptance of a statement, meaning statement of facts. It is to accept them practically, meaning a change in your life. Hence, to believe in the Lord Jesus is not merely to believe the facts of his historic life. So it's not about the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ or his saving energy as facts, but to accept him as Savior, teacher, the teachings of Jesus, sympathizer, judge, the person who's going to judge you based on what he taught you, to rest the soul upon him for present and future salvation, and most importantly, to accept and adopt his precepts and example as binding upon life. It's Marvin Vincent, Word Studies in the New Testament, 1905, Volume 2. You see the hyperlinks that are there on pages 49 to 50. So if you go to chapter 26, chapter 1, part 1, that would be the place where you will find the link to open this book yourself, or you could just do a books.google.com search. Okay, so now let's go through the concordance for this episode. All right, so now the next verse on this list is John 1, verse 50. So let's turn to that and see if that also should be changed to obey. All right, well, the answer is no, it shouldn't be. Now, let's read it. Jesus responded, saying to him, "Is it because I told you that I saw you under the fig tree that you believe? You will see greater things than that." So does Jesus mean here that you will obey unto me? Or when we read the context, it's that you would believe the facts about me that Nathaniel is relating in this particular passage. So we're going to look at the greater context. So why are we using this test again? Why is believing in facts different than believing or pisteuing to a person? Because in the NIV Theological Dictionary, which is our primary test that we're using here, it says with reference to people, pisteuo means to obey. So if it's with reference to facts, it would mean to believe in those facts. So let's see which one it is when we read the context. Here's the context. This is John 1, verse 45 to 51. I'm not going to read it all. I'm going to highlight certain things. You can see this is where Philip finds Nathanael and says unto him, "We have found of whom Moses," this is verse 45, of whom Moses in the law and the prophets did write, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. Now notice, by the way, these must be neighbors of Jesus, and so they know him personally, and they know him as the son of Joseph. It would be Jesus or Yeshua or Yeshua ben Joseph. That's what they know him as. And then they go, Nathanael goes, can any good thing come out of Nazareth? Philip says unto him, come and see. Jesus saw Nathanael coming to him and says, behold, an Israelite who is there no guile. And Nathanael goes, how do you know me? Jesus says, before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you. So obviously that was some sort of a miraculous thing, a sign in a way for Nathanael. And Nathanael answered, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. So by the way, right from the beginning, John is showing you the reaction someone would have if someone is the Messiah, some sort of walking prophet who can see things that other people can't see. This is immediately they go to, you are the Son of God, the King of Israel. And where is that coming from? We are ignorant Gentiles. We are never told where the messianic prophecy is about Jesus. It's in Psalm 2. The reason we don't go there is those very words used to be in the New Testament. This day I have begotten thee, but they were erased in 4 or 5 AD in the Vulgate, which then caused all the others to conform in the Greek. So there's where Latin changed the Greek that came after that, but all the Greek before that, all of it was this day I have begotten thee. So I digress. But anyway, that's what he's thinking of Psalm 2. And we'll have to get into Psalm 2 again, but we have a whole series that describes how Jerome corrupted that text to help Augustine win a debate to defend the Nicene Creed that Jesus was an eternal Son of God. He was not begotten at his baptism, as it originally said. All right, verse 50. Jesus answered unto him, because I said unto you, I saw that you under the fig tree, believe you? Believe what? Believe the facts he just said. You're the Son of God, you're the King of Israel. So those are facts about Jesus, of his historic life and who he is. And then Jesus says, you'll see greater things than these. And then he says, verily, verily, I say unto you, hereafter you shall see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. All right. So this is clearly 150 is believe in facts about Jesus. So this does not go on the list of verses. We're not going to add a number. We're still only up to 2 out of the first 3 are obey. But one of the 3 is believe in, meaning believe in facts about Jesus. Okay. So we'll go to the next one. All right. Now, next on the list is John 2, verse 11. And here's the workup on that. So it's would be the third time the word pisteuo in this case it has a prefix epi, and we'll go into what that prefix might mean or could mean. And here it means, I believe it means, and I've translated actually to mean his disciple. Well, let's look at my translation of this. John 2, verse 11. Jesus did this, meaning this miracle at Cana, the first of his signs at Cana in Galilee, and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him, is what Mr. Mountsley says. But the verb is aorist, indicative, active. So aorist means it started at a specific point, didn't necessarily last very long, but was a moment in time, something happened. And, well, if this is their first move from just believing in facts about him to something else, that seems to be the point, is it's now they began to seriously follow or obey Jesus. So this sign made them go, hey, this guy is somebody we need to really listen to and obey him, not just think he's the king and think he's the Son of God and he's going to miraculously save us from something else. We actually have a duty towards this person. That's what I think is the significance. And why do I say that in terms of the actual Greek form of the verb? So it's an aorist, indicative, active. So the action is continuous, but just for a moment. The aorist is comes and goes. So it starts and it finishes. So something had to happen that is defined in a moment of time. Now, I don't believe they only obeyed for a moment. That I think that would be misleading, and it's not possibly what it means. It means they began. So this moment was the moment when they began to believe and began to obey him by what they believed about him. From what they believed about him, now they wanted to obey him. So something had seriously changed or differed from the prior event where they had believed in facts about him. Now it's turned into, wait a minute, this guy needs to be taken very seriously. So that's why I think that is. And I just want to show you something. Mr. Mounsey's translation, in even his transliteral, is believed in him. But notice, this is the bottom left here. Notice he puts pisteuo down there. So he understands that pisteusõsin, you see over here is what the actual word is really a prefix that doesn't change the root meaning of the word. So he just even tells you the root meaning is pisteuo, and he doesn't go in to tell you it's an epipisteusõin. And some people try to make a lot about the prefix epi, and it could be possibly have some significance, and you have to consider it. But all it really means, I have the etymology on the over here at the top left, it simply means on top of. So they believed on Jesus, or they obeyed on Jesus, or they were following up on his words. Now they were following upon him. So this merely is saying that in relation to him, they had come to something that now covered him in their minds. They would now do something that was over him, and they would now be obedient over him, and not like superior to him, but in the sense that whatever he says goes. It was sort of an expansive moment in time where they began to do something, and that I believe was they began to obey him, take him very seriously. So I think it wouldn't be unfair to translate it that exact way, because you lose the aorist sense. You're not showing an English reader that this was only a moment in time. It was a specific event, and the only time they would begin to, there had to be a time when they all began to say, hey, he is somebody we need to follow. It's not just simply he's the Son of God and he's the King. We're going to follow his words. And this was the moment, I think. And because of the sign was so strong, they all said, hey, we're going to follow him. And so before this, they were probably a loose band of guys who were, we'll be your disciples. Teach us what you want to teach us, but we're going to go home and we're going to live our own life kind of attitude. But now they're going, hey, wait a minute, we're going to take him very seriously. And that, I think, is important to convey to the reader. So that's how I would translate it. So his disciples began to seriously follow him or unto him. The AS is really unnecessary to even translate here. I would actually, I put in unto just so there was a word there to cover it, but I don't think you need that. They seriously began to follow him, because that action has a penetration in his direction that we don't need in English need to say anymore. The word follow conveys the idea that it is toward or in the direction of the persons whose name follows, or the word him. So again, I think this is completely all you need. Began to seriously follow him. Okay, so I'm going to end it there. I'm trying to keep these episodes short. So we only found one more word in John 2:11, but you can see but we have to always be discriminating, meaning we don't just willy-nilly change the verses, and we don't willy-nilly even change make translations. We have to actually try to find out the meaning. And I don't know why translators do not seem to know the significance of an aorist tense. You have to find the meaning that came and went. It's not continuous. It continued for a time. That's why it's indicative active. That gives you the sense that it was action in process, but then it stops because it's aorist. It's something that happened in time, did not necessarily continue. And that's the point. There had to be this kind of one-time beginning. And that's what John's trying to say. This was the point when they took him seriously. This was the point they began to follow him, and not just be they're listening in a disciple mode. They were changing into true apostles. They would carry his message from this point. So the word disciple even tells you they're just listening. They're not yet following. They're not yet messengers. They're not yet saying, hey, whatever he says, we need to spread to other people. We can go and tell people, this is what Jesus told me yesterday to do and how to live. And so this was a very different attitude they came up with at this point. And I think, gosh, if we saw Amazing Miracle, we go, this guy has to be taken completely differently than we were taking him before we heard and saw this miracle. So anyway, okay, so again, this is the end of this episode, and we'll pick it up next time. Ciao. Bye.